First day of competition at the 2023 NOBULL CrossFit Games continues here as the men are set to take a leisurely ride in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm Sean Woodland with Chase Ingram. Nikki Brazier and Mike Arsenault are down on the competition floor, and for the second straight year, we start on the bikes.
Individual test number one, and what we just saw the women take on is that this is going to be a beating of a test, especially if you start too fast. 40 minutes on the course for max laps, but it's still a race to the finish for time between these athletes.
That yellow portion is where the athletes will have to hop off their bikes and run about 200 meters. The recipe for success delivered by Trifecta.
Competence on the bike. Are you comfortable? Are you confident? But confidence in the turns. We have a lot of switchbacks on their course. 22 total twists and turns. Can you take these turns and take advantage of those opportunities?
Mike Arsenault and Nikki Brazier are patrolling the course here at the Alliant Energy Center. Let's send it down to them. We start with Mike Arsenault.
Thank you, Sean. It's less than 10% of the entirety of this test, but this run transition is punching way above its weight in terms of pain being delivered to these athletes. I saw Emma Lawson, who won the test for the women, smashing on her quads once she got back onto her bike. For the men to succeed here in this test, it will be who can manage the lower body fatigue the best that will end up on top. For how these athletes will finish this test, let's send it over to Nikki Brazier.
Thank you, Mike. We will see the same cutoff here for the men as we saw for the women. The pylons behind me will come out here at the 40-minute mark and create a gate. The athletes who make it through the gate will have the opportunity to race for the finish, and the first one there wins. The athletes who don't make it will be pulled off the course. For the women, we saw about 10 of them get through. We'll see how many men make it.
Just like the women, all 40 men will be out on the course. 2 rows of 20 to start, with the higher-ranked athletes in the front and towards the middle. We saw Pat Vellner. He'll be riding the number 1 bike, and he has a little bit of a history with slow starts. Last year in Bike to Work, he finished 20th, and then back in 2018 in the crit, had a mechanical with his bike that forced him towards the back of the pack as well.
Hey, look, he just has day 1, test 1 woes. He's got a 36th, a 35th, a 35th, and a 20th. That 35th place finish in 2021 effectively was the reason why he didn't win the 2021 games. He's got 3rd twice, 2nd twice. People think that this is his year. This is one of the most important tests for the entire weekend for Pat Vellner.
We are underway.
Same thing we had for the women is a rolling start. Competition director Adrian Bosman in the red shirt in the lead will start them off, and then the race will begin. So Boz in the red will pull off to the side and to let the athletes basically get under their way as fast as they can.
Jonakowski there on the right side of your screen, out front early.
Jonakowski is one of the most popular picks to win this test. Koski in bike events for a first test has gotten 3rd and 2nd. He got 3rd in cyclocross, 2nd in bike to work last year. He had missed in 2018 when they had the crit. But on the flip side is that...
That's Alex Vigneault almost wiping out there.
Well, we saw how dangerous that first turn was when you have a field of 40, that what happened to Emma Carey in the first heat. But back to Koski, this guy just has almost the opposite of Vellner. He has great first events here at the CrossFit Games. Usually there's a mass start, there may be a swim involved, but even with the bike, Koski is one of the best, basically, first test athletes we've ever had.
3 of his test wins, one of them event 1 2021, the ocean swim in 2016 was towards the front, and then pier paddle in 2015, that was another opening event.
Now we saw on the women's side is that for the first 2 laps, if you were in the lead, you were no longer in the lead after the first lap, as we saw some athletes maybe come out a little too hot. Sean, one advantage here for the men is that now they have a better idea of about how many laps are on the table, whereas versus the women, they really weren't sure. They had a lap test earlier. They thought it would take about 6 to 7 minutes on average for a lap test, but now men know it's like, listen, I got to get 7 laps in. So now it's 7 laps for time versus 40 minutes of riding out here on the course.
Fabian Benito is your leader right now as we're past the 2-minute mark. His timing is presented by G-Shock, the official watch of the NOBULL CrossFit Games. So much tighter here towards the front than it was for the women in their opening lap, but we're only 2.5 minutes in.
Opening lap, the really only thing you can do in the opening lap of these 40 minutes is screw it up. You can either go out too fast, you could crash into somebody, you could derail your bike. Just let this opening lap come to you. Get a feel for the course. It's a different day than what they had on the training ride. They are more isolated, 40-person field. And at the same time is maybe give yourself a lap to calm down. Fabian Benito is out in the lead. He's a rookie at the CrossFit Games. He's been fighting for years to get here. Is this a wheelhouse test for him, or is this the rookie jitters and adrenaline? You see Jonakowski talking to them together, maybe trying to work with Adler and Benito.
And there's Cole Sager, who's making his 10th straight appearance here at the CrossFit Games. Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson and Noah Olsen are the other two men who are doing that here this year. Let's send it out to Mike Arsenault, who's down there on the course.
Thank you, Sean Chase. You alluded to Pat Vellner's struggle, so I had a chance to talk to his coach, Michelle Letendre, about the message for this test, and she said the turns will get better with each and every lap, so it's all about maintaining a good position in the first half and keeping the effort manageable, and then pushing to have a great last lap. To put it more succinctly, she said, and I quote, "Don't be an idiot in the first 25 minutes."
That's for Pat, that's good quality direct coaching.
Now Jonakowski in front of Jeffrey Adler, as Benito is sitting back in third now. Men approaching that run portion of this opening lap.
Opening lap times for the women were a range of 6:26. And that main pack's about 6:46. So again, very tight laps. Let's see how fast the men are coming into this first one.
It's Adler and Koski out front. Adler slightly ahead of Koski.
And just talking about Jeff Adler for a second, is that guy came in as basically the strong guy, the strong kid of the group. And he has worked on his endurance and his skills maniacally over the last 3 years, and it is showing by his place finishes on the leaderboard. 5th place last year is his best finish at the CrossFit Games ever with a full field. He's one of those athletes that is in the mentioning of possibly, the podium and maybe win the CrossFit Games this year.
That's Bailey Martin, who's in 3rd place. Martin out of New Zealand. Making his 2nd appearance here at the CrossFit Games. His first as an individual. He actually competed as a team back in 2017, where he took 13th overall. Well, here are your two leaders, Jeff Adler and Jonakowski, wrapping up lap number 1.
Now with them talking to each other, you can hear Koski, or look at Koski talking to Jeff. Jeff is chirping back, and that's the discussion of, we talked about the women, is like, can we work together? Can we work together to get ahead of this pack? As Adler and Koski are right about 5:44, 5:45.
Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson now is in 3rd place ahead of Bailey Martin, who sits in 4th. Cole Sager rounds out the top 5 after lap number 1.
So not that you can maintain the lap 1 pace for the entire 40 minutes, but that's a 6-minute lap. Say you keep that pace, you're looking at about 36 minutes to keep that. 7 laps is probably the most we're gonna see some athletes get. So understanding is like, listen, it's 6 laps to get to that final cut line before basically the time gate closes. So now it's 6 laps for time with the 7th one to finish. So now they have something that they are chasing. They have a set amount of work that they're racing to do, and that's much easier to tackle than an arbitrary lap number in a 40-minute time span.
Koski taking a look back, and Roman Krennikov now on the number 4 bike has moved into 3rd.
There we go, our top half
Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson still in that lead pack. Number 31 is Spencer Panchik. And now here is the two-time defending champ, Justin Medeiros, rounding the corner.
You're all right, Sam. Let's go. Come on. Recover.
Now that first lap, Vellner's sitting in 32nd. Now it's just a mass of bodies when it comes to that, but it's still towards the back of the pack.
Roman Krenikov is starting to creep up as he sits in third. Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson is right behind him.
Come on, Jeff!
Jake Crouch up there as well.
Jake Crouch actually has some motocross background. Now, obviously you're not pedaling, there's not that physical element, but as we said in the recipes for success, it's the competence. Competence racing on a bike, confidence racing in these turns. So Jake Crouch having some of that racing experience on a bike to help navigate how he attacks this course.
Koski's ahead of Adler right now for the lead with Krenikov in third, and I believe that is Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson sitting in fourth ahead of Jay Crouch.
See Koski pulling back on purpose to sit back on now Krenikov's wheel.
Now Krenikov is going to try to pass Adler on this turn, and Krenikov has moved into the lead.
And it almost biffed it there on the turn. Coming in a little too tight on these switchbacks on the backside of this course.
Well, we were talking earlier about the course before we came on air here, and you made a really good point about the turns are really the best opportunity that people will have to pass other riders.
And that's because there's not a big straightaway on flat ground to outrace anyone on the course, but it's the technical aspect of these turns. There's 22 total turns on the course, 15 of them are a 180 turn. And what you can do is that if you have the technical proficiency to have a good line and a good race, you can actually gain a second on somebody without even having to pedal. Well, if you do that 15 times, that's 15 seconds a lap. Someone else is going to have to bike faster and harder than you to try to catch you.
And now the leaders are off for the second time. Well, moments ago, that lead pack working together. There's Jonakoski looking over his shoulder and allows Adler and Krenikov to pass.
And that is, I was so curious if we were going to see that. And this is a lesson learned from last year, is that last year, the athletes didn't talk to each other. They basically all just try to race each other singled up. Did they learn? Did they adapt? One of the main things you see from CrossFit athletes is their ability to adapt event to event, but year to year as well. So if we can see these athletes communicate and pull away from the rest of the field, that's that maturation in competition we see from one year to the next.
Krenikov, Crouch, Adler, and Koski towards the front. Cole Sager, you saw him getting ready to get back on the bike. As now it's Roman Krenikov ahead of Crouch, Koski, Adler, and then Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson doing what he does, just hanging out there inside the top 5. Schedule a no-cost 15-minute evaluation to find out if a Rosti treatment is right for you. Get pain-free. Now available across the U.S. You can scan the QR code to get started. Lap 2 is down.
The 11.5-minute marker
for the leaders.
11:37, Krenikov in the lead. He had a 5:45 split on the first lap. So actually increased his speed on the second one.
Jay Crouch has now moved in front of Roman Krennikov. Jonakoski behind Roman. And it's Adler in 4th, Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson in 5th.
If you have a pace lead group working together, this is exactly what you should see. We shouldn't see one person in the lead the entire time. You stay in this line, you ride wheel to wheel to wheel. Listen, let's just separate ourselves from the other 35 athletes. And on the last lap, we all agree that the gloves are off and we're gonna race to the finish line. But each person, 20 seconds max pulling in the front. Everybody else gets a break as Roman Krennikov moves back in the front.
Top 5 have separated themselves here, and everyone content to draft behind Roman Krennikov, one of the bigger athletes out there. Third lap here for just about everybody now on the course.
Say, why is drafting important? Because one, it helps conserve energy. Not the person in the front. They're taking all the headwind, they're taking all the pace, but if you get within a foot of the other rider, it's anywhere between 15 to 40% energy saved while moving at the same speed. And so if you can just, especially with a group of 5, how valuable it is to be in a large lead group. Hey, I'm gonna sit at the front for 20 seconds and then just work to the back, and then for the next minute and a half, I'm gonna conserve 40% of my energy and keep the same speed. That's what working together at the front chase pack is for.
And we mentioned Vellner at the start. He's towards the back here, along with Jack Farlow and Will Morad.
I said after the first lap, he was in 32nd. Looks like he's still in that pace, about 6:16 on the first lap. Looks like 6:05 on the second, so not getting slower, but neither is the rest of the field. And look at the lead this front 5 have. Now, still a lot of time left, 25 minutes left in the first test. And you see front lead bike backing off the pace a little bit, but what you don't want is that you don't want the group to ride your coattails. You're in the lead, you can extend this, work together.
Roman Krennikov, Jonakoski, Alex Vigneault, Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson, and Jay Crouch. Oh, that's Jeff Adler, not Alex Vigneault there in the lead pack. Adler has been towards the top.
See Roman leading in the front. It was Koski for a bit, but not much. Roman jumped right in front again fairly quickly. But if you want to see what drafting does, is Roman's pedaling hard, and you'll see some of the athletes just stop pedaling. Jay Crouch, stop pedaling. Gudmundsson, stop pedaling. But it's because that's the benefit of the draft, and the draft gets better the more people you have in line.
Right now it's Roman Krennikov who is staying out front. Krennikov made his first in-person appearance at the CrossFit Games last year, finished on the podium in 2nd place. And he won 2 tests last year. Has 3 career test wins, the other coming in the 1,000 meter row test from 2020. That was the online portion of the CrossFit Games that year.
Athlete that is in the mix of not just podiuming again, but winning the entire thing. He got 2nd last year in what, at minimum, you could say was a tumultuous year for Roman Krennikov, trying to get a visa to come to the United States for the first time ever. Just had a baby boy, left his wife back home to come to the States just to compete here, and then got to meet him for the first time ever at the CrossFit Games last year. Now, he's got to spend an entire year here in the United States training just for this.
Let's bring in Mike Arsenault down on the course
Well, Chase, we've been talking about how difficult the run is on these athletes, both the women and the men, and how brutal it is on their quads and their glutes. So is it a matter of just grinning and bearing it, or is there something these athletes can do technique-wise to make it a little bit easier? Is that going harder on the decline, easing off the pedal on the incline, or what would you advise they should do to push through on these run portions?
The one part is like take your break on the declines. That's a good opportunity to keep your speed but not keep the same intensity. But we said earlier, it's the technicality of the turns, especially the ones that have an incline at the base of the turn. That's where you gain a second, maybe 2 seconds on the rest of the pack.
Jay Crouch has now moved out front.
$17:30 to the collective time. The lap time previously was 11:39. So that third lap was faster than the second one. Their fastest lap so far is 5:44. They bumped up to about 5:55 and now brought it down to about 5:50 for that lap. See Jay Crouch leading the front five. You don't want to lose contact. Like I said, you get 15 to 40% benefit on the draft. You lose contact with about 10 feet away, which is not a lot of distance. It's going to be hard to make up, especially when 4 are pulling together, not you.
Jay Crouch making his 4th straight individual appearance here at the CrossFit Games. His best finish was 18th overall in 2020, and his best finish in a test is 5th. He's done that twice. Dam Diane in 2020, and then Event 4 in 2021. Now Yonakoski back in front. Koski making his 9th career appearance at the CrossFit Games. His best finish came in 2021 when he finished 6th overall.
Yeah, little distance in these front 5. And Koski and Crouch are starting to pull away.
Koski and Crouch continue to lead. There is Justin Medeiros on the number 10 bike behind Chandler Smith. Lazar Jukic is behind Medeiros. Justin has used consistency to win his 2 titles. He only has won 1 test at the CrossFit Games, but he rarely makes mistakes. In 48 total career tests at the Games, he's finished in the top 10 39 times.
And that's it. Consistency is key. That's I mean, that's the baseline methodology deciding piece of a CrossFit athlete, is how consistent can you be across the board. But Medeiros, he's looking a little gassed. If you just saw his body language gasping for air, we're just past the halfway point here.
Jay Crouch and Yonakoski have separated themselves from Adler, Gudmundsson, and Krennikov.
Koski's leading Crouch. Now, again, we'll see if this is a move to help the tandem.
There you go.
But there's obviously more is better when it comes to drafting, but if the group isn't collectively working together, find yourself someone who's willing to work with you. And that might be what we're seeing with Koski and Crouch.
Krennikov now in 3rd place in that pack on the right side of your screen. Koski taking a second to grab some water. Trek Bikes has 12 speeds.
It's got 12 speeds.
Taking off any sweet jumps. Send it down to Nikki Brazier with more on that bike.
Yeah, guys, I was able to catch up with Chris Hinshaw, who actually did a couple laps in practice on this course, and he told me that, in his opinion, that Trek bike is legit. It felt as though he was riding with a strong tailwind the entire time, and the tires have been filled at a pretty high pressure, which makes traveling over the grass, now very well mounted down, pretty darn fast, which should benefit the more aggressive rider. And he said, unfortunately, this tire pressure also makes riding on the gravel and the dirt a little more squirrely, so the safest area is going to be right in the middle, right down the dirt, as the sides of the track here are where some of the larger rocks have been gathered.
Koski and Crouch getting set to close out their 4th lap. 40 minutes is when that gate will close, and whoever gets past that will race to the finish. There's Jordan Carl Gudmundsson. 5th place right now in this test. Gudmundsson making his 10th straight appearance here at the CrossFit Games. He has only finished lower than 9th overall once, and that was his rookie year in 2014.
It's Koski. Koski now your new leader with Crouch taking 2nd, Adler 3rd, Krennikov 4th, BKG in 5th, so that 1st place position.
Lap 5 now for the leaders. Less than 17 minutes before we hit that 40-minute mark.
And that might be Jeff Adler trying to work his way up into your lead pack. He was stuck in the back 3 once that lead pack split.
And that is Jeff Adler. We're talking to him and his coach, Carolyn Lambre, a few months ago. They mentioned that Jeff's training has changed. The focus is no longer, let's get to the CrossFit Games and be competitive. It's now, let's get to the CrossFit Games and win. There's Jake Douglas, rookie out of Australia.
And it's not too early to mention, Sean, is the value of single place finishes when it comes to point allocation. Because this is potentially going to be, with the talent that we have at the top, one of the closer games finishes. Hard to predict in test 1 over the course of the weekend, but with the talent that we have at the top, these 2 or 3 place finishes, those 8 to 12 point swings from test to test are going to be so valuable. But then on the horizon, after Friday, we're cutting 10 people. And there's some events that are coming on Saturday that maybe those bottom 10 could succeed in and maybe make that final cut to 20. Jake Douglas being one of those athletes.
Koski, Crouch, and Adler, your top 3 right now on their 5th lap. Krennikov leading Jordan Carl Gudmundsson for 4th right now. Now it's Adler who has moved into the lead. Adler has finished inside the top 5 twice in his career at the CrossFit Games. Did it in 2020, and then again last year. Has 4 career test wins.
Those mainly coming in strength power tests. Back 9 last year is one of the more impressive things I have seen anyone do. No, Roman and BKG in the back still sticking around.
Koski is really doing a nice job of drafting off the people in front of him.
And it looks like, I mean, since the beginning that not only is he doing a good job navigating through that, but a good job almost coaching the group to a certain extent. And that's what you need. You need everyone to work collectively together if you are going to try to work in that position. But maybe have someone in charge of just directing the trio that you have.
You see how far ahead the 5 riders are of the pack.
We talked about that in the women's test previously with Emma Lawson, is that you get to a certain point out of eyesight that you just break the spirit of the people chasing you. Oh, they're too far, I'm not even going to worry about it. Or, I don't know how fast that group is going. I have no depth to gauge if I'm catching up or losing ground. So they're kind of lost in their own pacing on the course.
Will be the first man to hop off his bike and complete this approximately 200-meter run. This is not the first time we have seen bikes at the CrossFit Games. The first time was back in 2012. Pendleton won, and those bikes were single speed.
Yeah.
Didn't see him again until we came here to Madison in 2017 with cyclocross. We had the road bikes in the crit in 2018. The bike for Peter showed up in 2020 out in Morgan Hill, California, and then last year we had bike to work.
And of the 5 athletes in this group, Koski has competed in 2 of those. Cyclocross, he got 3rd in 2017. Last year, 2nd in bike to work. Could have won the thing, but I don't think he realized that Ricky Garrard even existed on the bike course in Test 1 last year.
Go down to Mike Arsenault.
Well, Jeff Adler is from Montreal, and for those of you not as familiar with Canadian geography as I am, Montreal is actually built on a hill, Mount Royal, and Jeff has done a number of bike training sessions up and down Mount Royal, over 200 meters of elevation, nearly 800 feet. So obviously those training sessions definitely paying off here in test number 1.
And here comes our top 5.
And Adler will be the first man across. Just ahead of Koski and Crouch. Now 5 laps are down for the leaders.
1 lap, it's Crouch.
About 10.5 minutes before that gate will close, and we will have that final race to the finish. Krennikov and Gudmundsson have managed to now close the gap as well, as those 5 riders are tired as tired.
First 2 minutes complete. And we tag in our second pair of male-female athletes.
Robert Krennikov moving back to the front. Adler, Crouch, Koski, and Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson. While Justin Medeiros is still back in the pack, your 2-time defending champion. Not quite sure where he is in relation to the rest of the field, but we'll be keeping an eye on him.
It's right there around 17.
And there's Pat Vellner on the right with Will Morad and Ant Haynes.
As it stands right now, Vellner is outside the top 30. And we talked at the beginning is how important it is to just get some points when it comes to trying to podium or win the CrossFit Games, but how valuable or how necessary it is for Vellner to have a good start to the weekend.
Pat Vellner's no stranger to climbing out of early holes, and it's looking like he's going to have to do it again here.
Vellner and Morad all crossing into that next lap.
Top 5 now lapping another rider out there. This test is presented by O2 Hydration, the official sports drink of the 2023 NOBULL CrossFit Games. Find O2 online at drinko2.com and at CrossFit gyms nationwide, and hydrate like you mean it. Now 8 minutes left before the gate closes. It's Roman Krennikov in front of Jeff Adler and Jay Crouch. Yonakoski sits in fourth, followed by Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson.
Finish time in the last lap of this lead group was right about on the nose, 6 minutes. Earlier, previous to that, they've all been sub-6. So that was the slowest lap they've had, being the 5th lap, which is no surprise. I mean, to speed up constantly through 40 minutes at this intensity of which these athletes are riding at is not feasible. But 6 minutes here, if they can get past the gate, which they will in plenty of time, and you know, we predicted maybe somewhere around 36 to 37 minutes. But the pack behind them, the majority of them all may make the final lap. So then it's, again, as he said, in that last, lap itself is just a race to the finish line.
Look at Yonakoski.
This is the benefit of being in the back of the pack. You're not losing any ground. Take your feet off the pedals, flush out your legs a little bit. Your feet aren't clipped in, so that's one benefit of not having clips, is you can just take your feet out and shake it without having to snap back in. The downside is that you don't actually get that full pull of being clipped into a pedal, but these athletes are used to that.
There's just no one within sight other than the athlete that was just lapped of these top 5. And now to the run portion.
Lap splits for these group. 5:44, 5:54, 5:51, 5:49, and then a 6-minute lap on the 5th one.
That gate will close at 40 minutes, and then it's a race to the finish to anybody who gets past that. Roman Krennikov in the lead. Adler swinging out wide here.
When you look at that 5th lap, it's like, okay, how do they get their their second fastest lap on the 4th one and their slowest lap on the 5th one? Outside of fatigue, on the 5th lap is when this group of 5 fractured into 2 groups. You can move faster with a bigger group. That's why the 5th lap was the slowest one.
Krennikov, Koski, Adler, Crouch, and Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson. Closing out lap 6.
Well ahead of the time cut of 40 minutes, but they'll only have this last lap to go, less than 5 minutes to finish. Meaning now the race for these 5 athletes is underway. The question is when are they going to start racing each other? But at the same time, this entire field should be able to make this last lap, save for maybe a handful of athletes.
I think if you keep an eye on Yonakoski, he might be the guy that starts this thing off. I feel like he's really run a smart race here, conserving some energy. And
I wouldn't be surprised if Roman went first, and Koski, who, like you said, has had a great race so far, although as you say that, Koski pulls up ahead. But Roman has been the one that has jumped ahead of the pack at random moments in this top 5. But as you said, Koski has been riding this group and leading this group for the last 36 minutes.
Now Yonakoski increasing some speed on the left. On the right, Medeiros and Fellner right next to each other. On the left, it's Yonakoski taking a look back at
Somebody lost.
Roman Krennikov, followed by Jeff Adler, Jay Crouch, and then Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson. So Koski, who has been content to ride the tire of the men with him in that pack towards the front, as he now sees Roman Krennikov move back into first, as Krennikov and Koski are starting to pull away from Adler, Crouch, and Gudmundsson. Not by much, though.
It's a long lap, 6 minutes of hard racing.
Koski looked like he might be thinking about trying to pass Roman on that turn.
And honestly, what I would do in Koski's position is do what you've been doing for the last 6 laps, is that if Roman wants to go out, just go with him. You don't need to beat him halfway through the lap. Where that last part's gonna be, maybe just stay on his wheel as long as you can until you get to that run transition. Possibly make a move there. But it's after that run transition, straight away to the finish line, downhill the whole way, upshift as high and as quick as you can once you get onto the bike and just race to the finish line.
Roman Krennikov with 2 minutes to go before that gate closes, so this should be the final lap and the final race to the finish. Now that pack of 5 starting to tighten a little bit here.
See, Roman Krennikov has upped his gears.
Jeff Adler
And that
as well.
And it slowed him down the turn, but like, if you look at Krennikov's pedal strokes, it's much slower than the other two. Jeff Adler, look at the cycle rate, the RPMs he's going. That means he's in a lower gear. He can get a faster cycle. That's so valuable in these tight turns on the back part of this course. If you're in a higher gear, it's a slow turn. It's what we said at the very beginning of this race.
Well, Jeff Adler is in the lead. Kaike Servani is the man who's getting past there and kind of bollocking things up for that lead pack. 1 minute to go. So this will be the final race to the finish line. Adler leading Jona Koski. Roman Krennikov sits in third, followed by Jay Crouch and Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson. And now Koski making a move on Adler. Koski back in front. Koski will be the first man to the run portion of the course.
So coming into this run portion, downshift your gears to a smaller gear so there's less resistance on the pedal, because once you get to the run, and when we get back on the bike, you don't want it to be in a high gear. You want it to be in low and then upshift as quick as you can on that downhill finish.
Jona Koski trying to hang on to this lead now, pick up his 4th career test win. And his 3rd in the opening test at the CrossFit Games. He also won Event 1 in 2021 and Peer Paddle back in 2015. The gate has now closed. Koski getting set to make the transition. Here comes Adler in 2nd. And it's Crouch and Krennikov fighting for 3rd, but it's going to be Jona Koski with a great push at the end here to separate himself from the 4 men chasing him, and Jona Koski picks up the win.
He will finish first.
Adler is going to get 2nd. Crouch edging out Krennikov for 3rd, and it's going to be Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson taking 5th.
1 minute remains for these athletes.
Just a masterful tactical race by Jona Koski.
Crossing that finish line.
And there is Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson, his 10th straight appearance here at the CrossFit Games, has only finished lower than 9th once during that span. Kaike Servani is going to get waved in, but he's a lap behind.
Jona Koski, our first athlete.
And there is Jona Koski. trying to recover after his 4th career test win. Now, Jelle Hoste out of Belgium leading this pack. Moritz Fiebig is on the number 19 bike. That's James Sprague on the 25. And it's going to be Jelle Hoste. He's going to get a top 10 finish. Moritz Fiebig. And Dallin Pepper coming across. James Sprague is in as well. There's Brett Fikowski. Spencer Panchik with a late push. He is across. As more athletes finishing here.
Martin looking over his shoulder as Cole Sager trying to catch up.
Bailey Martin is in. Cole Sager's in with Chandler Smith. Holds off Alex Vigneault at the finish. And there is Pat Vellner, who is going to once again have to dig out of an early hole here.
And it's not his ability to do that, that's what he does. Not necessarily, he digs himself a hole, but he climbs himself back. And the issues previous years when they had major cuts, like in 2019, that was a detriment to his comeback on the weekend. But it's the points you lose and the inability to basically close that gap after the course of the weekend.
Noah Olson just got across the finish line. Sam Kwan is in. Sam Courvoisier, Will Morad.
Taking it all in grand style here on day 1 of our team competition.
Luke Parker.
NOBULL CrossFit Games.
Colton Mertens. David Sharunke is the man behind Pat Vellner, as Vellner is done. There is Medeiros, who's now just coming across.
I don't know if he blew up or maybe something happened to the bike, because he had something happen between lap 4 and lap 5. He was about mid-pack on lap 4 and almost dead last after lap 5.
Cole Griesaber. Lazar Jukic is just getting back on the bike for the final time to close out his test.
Come on, let's go!
Jukic making his 3rd straight appearance here at the CrossFit Games. Both times inside the top 10, 9th in 2021 and then finished 8th last year. Jukic is just going to coast across the finish line, as he is in no danger of surrendering his current position. That's Artur Semenov. Will make his way across the finish line. It's just about every athlete has gotten across.
Semenov getting across that finish line as well.
Close out this opening test. There's the man who rode away with test number 1, Yota Koski. And you mentioned the word tactical. He was more or less perfect throughout this whole thing.
Right from the start, but also helping other athletes really help him at the same time. As you said, that lead pack after about the first lap of Adler, BKG, Krennikov, Crouch, and Koski. And so many times you would see Koski coaching them, hey, you go forward, or I'm just gonna pull back and sit on your back wheel. And Then about halfway through that final lap, he just separated himself and got himself his first non-swimming event win of his career.
And Yona Koski's with Nikki Brazier.
Yona, there was about 5 of you guys just sort of leading the pack, drafting off one another, and it looked like you were talking to each other too. What was that communication like?
Yeah, I guess like when you're riding in a group, you want everyone to take their turns to pull in the front, because at our speed, drafting really makes a huge difference. So if you're the only one leading the pack all the time, you're basically giving the group a free ride. So yeah, we were just trying constantly to push each other to do their turns, and it worked out well. I think in the beginning, me and Jeff had a small breakaway, but then started slowing down once we saw that there was a smaller group behind us. And then it was the last round race at the end. Yeah.
There were twists and turns, different types of terrain. You had a run. What was the most difficult part of this course?
Well, for me, I felt like the run was the hardest part for sure. You had the long straight coming into a couple twists or couple turns before the run, so the hard way was pretty jacked up. And then after, you knew you need to push the run because it's 200 meters. You can easily lose 5 seconds. If you're not with the pack in the run, you can easily lose the pack on the second straight after the run. So the run was tough.
Congratulations! What a great way to start your competition.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yona Koski with his 4th career test win, locks up 100 points in the process. Here's what's coming up later on today. We'll have ESPN Plus coverage until 7 p.m. Central Time. That's when we'll move over to ESPN 2 from 2 to 4 local time. The Finding the Fittest show. Dave Ryan with Tommy Marquez, Jason Kalipa, Andy Sakamoto, and Tom Miazga will be part of that, along with Adrian Conway. And then we will have Men and Women's Test 3, the inverted medley, to close out the opening day of competition. First test is in the books. Emma Lawson and Yona Koski with the wins. Coverage continues here. Stay with us, everybody, at the 2023